Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In this video, we'll discuss about a few things inshallah. First and foremost, about the zakat rulings on detailed assets and how do we calculate zakat on different types of detailed assets, particularly the detailed assets that are or will be offered by Mabrook. And we'll share some relevant examples on how we can understand these things inshallah. Firstly, what do we refer by detailed assets? As we know, detailed assets is a very extremely broad terminology, which may mean a lot of different types of things. And it may represent a different types of assets on which zakat ruling may differ a lot. So firstly, we will have to check what are the underlying assets of these detailed assets. And based on these underlying assets, zakat ruling will differ. For example, particularly in case of Mabrook. In Mabrook, we have different types of tokens. For equity tokens, if these are representing income generating fixed assets like properties or house, just like in income generating properties, usually in the properties itself, we don't have to pay zakat. We don't have to calculate zakat. Likewise, in such detailed tokens also, on the token itself, there is no zakat. However, if there are incomes generated, the zakat will be on the income itself. And this is also evidenced by IU fishery standards, which says there is no zakah on fixed assets which generate income like mustaghallat or leased assets if such assets are not acquired for trade. Basically, if an asset is acquired to be sold with the intention to be sold, we call it articles of trade or trade assets, and therefore we calculate zakat on the asset itself. If it is not the case, if it is acquired to generate income like properties, then we don't calculate zakat on the asset itself. Anyway, if the token is about debt token, whereby the token represents some receivables, in that case, zakat will be calculated on the entire token value because it is representing receivable. And there are relevant IUFI Shari standard clauses on, for example, murabaha debt or sukuk, where if the asset or the share or the detailed asset is representing debt receivables, the zakat will be on the entire receivables. Furthermore, for example, in case of a token which represents rights to the income from a murabaha sale, as I was mentioning earlier as well, if the asset has been sold already, right, the amount owed will be a debt receivable upon which zakat will be due annually. So each token holder will pay zakat on the proportionate amount owed to them represented by the token. For example, if you are many token holders and the debt is a consolidated debt of let's say $100,000, so each token holder will pay an amount which is proportionate to their ownership of the right to receive that debt. And this is evidenced by IU fishery standards as well. If the asset, the underlying asset of the token is not yet sold, it will be sold as murabaha, but it is not yet sold. In that case, it is no other than a trade asset or article of trade. And as usual, the entire asset is zakatable, as mentioned earlier or in other zakat standards as well. However, in any case, just like any other assets, if the tokens are purchased with the primary intention of reselling them, then these digital assets themselves will qualify as article of trade, and we have to calculate zakat on the entire tokens based on the market value. And this is no different than shares or stock of a company. For example, if someone has purchased shares from the stock exchange in the intention to resell those shares, then regardless of the underlying assets, we consider the entire stock on the market value as an article of trade, and hence zakat is calculated on the entire article of trade or entire stock or shares. And here will be the same, the entire token will be zakatable. And this is evidenced by IU fishery standard as well. For example, in IU fishery standard number 35, the search clauses on articles of trade, and the same will apply with such tokens. In any case, zakat will be always due on the dividends received as a result of owning the tokens, since that essentially becomes cash in hand. So whatever the underlying asset is, whenever there are dividends, there are income generated, that income will be subject to zakat, unless it is impermissible, because in that case the entire income has to be donated to charity as a matter of purification. As we know, zakat is just 2.5% of the entire zakatable value, right? Net zakatable asset, but the purification is just 100%. So the entire amount has to be purified. It is also important to note that the discussion on zakat for digital assets does not necessarily imply that all digital assets are permissible to invest in. That is completely different discussion. In this video, we are trying to address how and when we calculate zakat on digital assets, not the topic that how and when a digital asset becomes Sharia compliant, right, or permissible to invest or trade in. So that is a different topic altogether, and we have to screen each digital asset based on the underlying assets and portfolio, based on the screening methodologies that are developed by IOFI Sharia standards and others. However, when it comes to zakat, we have to adhere to some methodologies, some of which we have described together today in this video. Thank you so much for watching. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.